we're here today with the one and only Megaran, and you are now not only a prolific nerdcore rapper, you're now a author as well. You have put out a biography called Dream Master, and we're here to talk with you about your new book and your music career, and just all the things. How you doing, bud?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm so much better now that you're here. Dream Master, I'm curious, how did this come about? And like, when did you start writing your memoirs and sort of getting everything going? Has this been like something you'd always wanted to do? Were you approached about it?
Yeah, I just had a lot of people tell me things like, man, you should write that down, or, oh, that'd be a good book. And I just been jotting things down as they happen. And, I was always told to do that as a way to kind of keep a lot of things fresh in your mind when like really cool things happen. Just write your thoughts. Sometimes some of them I had released in like blog form or on my podcast, Random Encounters, where I just kind of talk about things that have happened to me, like, and how I've responded to things. And those sounded really cool. Like, it's almost sounded like an audiobook. So I was like, well, maybe I should just do this. And so yeah, it's literally been like 4 years, probably, maybe 5, that I've been jotting stuff down. And eventually just decided, all right, it's time to put this into a book. So I had to kind of piece together things and put them in order. And I think I'm a pretty good writer. I was an English major, but I don't fully trust myself with something like this. So giving it to not 1 or 2, but 3 different editors was really tough, to send, to get, their like real opinions on what I was writing, content wise, structure wise. And it made the book better. So eventually I thought, you know what? With 2020 being how it was, I'm not traveling. Like, this is the time to finish it. That was really a goal I set for myself during this time at home, was like, finish these unfinished projects. I'm always saying that to people. That's always been my my piece of advice to like people who want to do stuff. Like, just do it. I'm like, to quote Shia LaBeouf, I'm always telling kids like, just do it. Like, if you want to be a rapper, you want to be a singer, you want to make music, you want to make beats, just do it. And you'll get better at it, And so that's really what it was with me with writing. I was like, well, I got to do it to learn I can do it and to improve. So yeah, we just did it. And here it is, man. It's out. I'm extremely, nervous about it, just how it'll be received, and like that kind of stuff. It has me very, very nervous, but I'm very pleased with it. I've read it 1,000 times, just hoping that somebody will read it one time,
Yeah, no, I feel that. I was reading it a little bit before we were able to sit down. I wasn't able to get through everything, but like, one of the things that kind of surprised me a little bit is like, you were kind of, you were a raucous kid, kind of, and just knowing you now, and I mean, you talk a little bit about the book, but you kind of like, there's an incident in your life that kind of sets you on a different path, like those kinds of epiphany moments are always intriguing to me personally, because I feel like I can relate to a lot of like kind of what you're talking about. I grew up like with being raised by a single mother, and like hopping around like low income apartments and stuff like that, and like the way, like, I often have similar thoughts about like the path not taken because of things. I found that really interesting.
Oh yeah, it's and that's really what I was hoping and thinking, like, in my travels and all these years of touring and stuff, I run into art, like, fans, friends now I call them, and family that have had similar stories, and that just showed me how you know, my upbringing wasn't that different from everybody else's, and how we're all relatable in some way, you know, and that's really what I was hoping for. I just wanted to talk to some people who had been through some of the same things, and let them know that your environment or your upbringing or your circumstances don't define you. You know, it's what you make of those opportunities you get, you know, and sometimes it's just making a way out of no way. And I think we're all proof of that, you know, just you know, surviving, succeeding despite, you know, and that's really what it's kind of about.
Yeah, like you ripped the Band-Aid off pretty quickly in your book, as far as like some of the tougher times in your life and things that sort of defined you at an earlier age. You know, was it difficult to write that out and share that with people and know that like now all these folks are gonna know this stuff about you and like understand these very private things about like what has defined you?
Yeah, I worried about that a lot, but I felt like my music is also very honest, you know, so I think anyone who's listened to more than 5 or 6 songs of mine hopefully will understand that I'm a guy who doesn't necessarily hide things, you know. So and I think that's part of the journey, you know. I don't think anyone wants to hear from anybody whose life has been fantabulous the entire time, you know, who's had the most easy, fun, enjoyable, stress-free life, you know. So I think what kind of has built character and made me kind of persevere through this is the things that I've been through and that I've never told anybody, you know. So I say it sometimes in my songs, like I make music because I don't, or at least for the most part, I couldn't afford a therapist, you know, because, you know, like that's really what it is. Like,
oh God, that's too relatable, man. That's way too relatable.
Yeah, like it's cheaper than therapy, man. And that's really what it's always been for me. It's been my release. And luckily, you know, 10 years ago or so, when I said, you know, I really like Final Fantasy VII, I'm going to write a song about it. Luckily, thank God, you know, hundreds of other people were like, dude, I love Final Fantasy and hip hop too. You know, you're not as weird as you think you are. You know, so that's really what telling these stories is too. That hopefully, you know, if anyone's been through anything similar, you know, they'll understand that it doesn't define you, who you are. You know, these are things that have, you know, been, you know, roadblocks or bumps, but we're us not turning them into, you know, deterrents.
It's also like kind of like an in-depth look at like each of your albums as well, right? And the process behind those.
Yeah, I try my best to at least give a chapter to each album, like each major release, what was going on in my life in that time and things like that. I always say, like, I would never watch like a VH1 behind the music about somebody if they didn't have the struggle, the down moments, you know. It wouldn't be a very interesting program. So it really took a lot to pull those things out of me and revisit some of those tough creative times, you know, and the frustration of people not listening, or, you know, or maybe just not listening as hard as I would hope they would, you know, like when I say things like, you know, people just kind of choosing not to notice things, and it was frustrating. So yeah, it was really relieving to be able to talk about that stuff.
Nice. Yeah. Now, I feel like I honestly feel like video games and nerdy stuff have always had a place in hip hop, but yet there is also sort of this people want to make this disconnection between it and sort of like compartmentalize a lot of rap and being like, oh, these people are talking about like, you know, drugs and violence and like things that they've experienced on the streets, like that perspective. But at the same time, like the video games, the comic books and stuff like that are over here. But I don't know, I always feel like all that stuff was mixed together and like it's all just about like the life experience.
That's what I think, you know.
Yeah. And
I mean, it took me hearing people like Wu-Tang and others and MF Doom and guys like that to really understand it, to be like, oh yeah, these things do run hand in hand, you know. Yeah. And but yeah, there's been this weird disconnect, and I've been trying my best over the years to kind of fight against that, and just kind of encourage people that you can literally be anything you want. You can be inspired by anything, and you can make music, and somebody out there will relate and understand it.
Yeah, you know, you have Xavier Woods did the forward for your book, and like one of the things he's talking about that is like finding a kindred spirit, and you finding somebody that was like also nerdy and, you know, loved the same sort of stuff, but also wasn't gonna let themselves be defined by other people's stereotypes or expectations of them.
Absolutely.
And, yeah,
I think that's like a huge theme of probably the entire theme of the book. You know, it's just like being who you are, and despite whatever is around you, and being comfortable with it. And like for a long time, I wasn't comfortable fully with Mega Ran, you know, and so just understanding that was a big journey for me.
Yeah, and you like, you know, you started out as Random and became Mega Ran, and like that's a journey in and of itself, right? Like that's like changing your identity. It's not just like you're changing your name, you're changing your whole persona. Like
it's like putting on a new like super suit or whatever, you know, like just taking off the costume and then putting on a whole new one. So then you're like known by a different, you know, look, a different name. It was very difficult, man. Like it was something I fought with for a long time, and had to develop comfort with, but you know, it was a journey,
man. What's the moment it all kind of clicked for you? You know, when you realized like this is now who you were, and this is your career, and this is what you're doing with your life.
Maybe it was, I think it was a time where I was still teaching. So this is like right after the release of Black Materia. And I talk about it in the book, where the moment that album kind of takes off is like 2 months after it came out. And a lot of people are like talking about it, and it's like at the top of the Reddit pages or whatever, and it's doing some cool things. And it's leading to people calling me for more gigs. But at the same time, I'm a teacher and I have to be at school. And so my principal telling me, you know, you can't serve two masters, and me understanding that, what that meant, and eventually having to develop the strength to kind of move on from teaching is the moment. Because when I saw the success of that album and it was popping up on a lot of different charts and things, I was next to like legit artists, you know. It's like, oh, there's Kanye West, and there's Lil Wayne, and there's two other guys, and then you. And I'm like, wait, what? You know? So that's when it made me think like, wow, maybe I do have something, because those guys probably don't have day jobs, you know? So it's time for me to give this a full-time effort, you know? So that was it.
Yeah. Was it hard? How hard was it to leave teaching behind, you know? Because that's definitely a job that you're doing because you love it, or, you know, you want to give back. Like, you know, no, people do not get into teaching for the fame and wealth.
No, they don't. It's the hardest thing I ever had to do, outside of burying my father, which unfortunately had to happen last year. But like stepping away from that job that I thought I'd be doing, you know, the rest of my life, and you know, not being paid amazingly well from it, but again, it's the reward of teaching is in the real-time progress that students make. You know, you get to see a kid who doesn't like math eventually, you know, master it. You get to see kids who don't like to read in front of the class, like, become good readers. And, you know, you get to see real-time progress. It's the most rewarding career that there is, you know, outside of maybe being like a professional TikTok person. Because, you know, you can just do a really fun dance and then put it online and watch the numbers go up. So it's pretty instantly gratifying, I guess. But teaching, I think, is the absolute most rewarding career you could possibly do. So to step away from that, oh God, it was hard. And it's scary because my mom's telling me the whole time, like, are you crazy? Like, keep your job. Like, what are you doing? You know? And friends and everybody are like, yeah, I don't know, man. Like, part of the struggle is you're supposed to work a job, you know, that you hate and build your, you know, time, put your time in. And
but that's kind of BS though.
Yeah, I don't buy that.
Yeah,
you know, but everybody thinks that, like, you're supposed to bide your time and work a job you hate, and then maybe eventually you know, spend some other time doing that other thing you love. But I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's more about the you know, the quality of the life you're living, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And it's being comfortable with the life you're living. And honestly, as a teacher, I was making $32,000 a year, which at the time sounded amazing, you know, because coming out of college, I'd never seen that many zeros, you know. So, but then that turns out to be like $12 an hour, you know, probably less when you consider that I'm working hours after school. I'm grading papers on the weekend. I'm up late. I am there early. I'm putting in so much time. And so I'm thinking this is the greatest money I ever made. And there were times where I didn't know if I was going to be able to put gas in my car at the end of the week, you know, after payday and paying bills. And so I was like, well, if I'm struggling like this with a career, then why don't I just try my luck? You know, what could be worse? I'll cut down. I'll cut down and having Subway every week, and you know, no Chinese food, and I'll cook at home and struggle a bit, but it'll be fine. And so that's really what it was. I cut out a lot of unnecessary expenses, and I just did it.
Nice. Just push yourself, man. And that's I mean, that's something that I admire about you as a person and as an artist, and that's inspiring to me. And why I'm so excited to like finish reading your book is I have like firsthand witnessed how hard you have worked to be successful in what you do. And it is like, yeah, it didn't happen overnight, and it is phenomenal. I really do not know anybody that works as hard at your craft personally. You know, and yeah, but how hard is it to keep yourself motivated?
I think that's the easy part for me.
Oh yeah,
you know, because I don't want to go back to teaching as much as I love it. That's it. I just look back and say, do you really want to go back to that? Do you remember waking up at 6 a.m., staying up till 2, you know, making music or whatever you were trying to do, and then getting to work at 7, working your butt off, staying there until 7 or 8 at night, and, you know, for very little recognition and just really working your butt off? That's it for me. That is the motivation, is that I don't want to go back to my old life. That's it. So
no, I think that's relatable. I mean, even
I think anybody, I mean, to me, that's where self-motivation comes easy to me, and I know it's not easy for everybody else. But just look back at your lowest moment and ask yourself, do you want to be there again? You know, and I think that that's what can inspire you to make unbelievable leaps and bounds, you know, in your passion.
Yeah, well, not to spoil anything too much, but what's the lowest point for you in the book that you've discussed?
Oh man, I think the lowest point for me was 2014. I talk about how I feel like creatively I was in a rut, and I kind of let the Megaran persona and movement kind of take over me, and I wasn't being creative, or I had found a groove that was extremely comforting. It's like, oh, they like video game stuff. Let's find a new video game. Here we go. Video game. You know, it became almost pandering to me at a point where I was just making stuff, you know, and I wasn't putting my full heart or effort into it. And I can remember literally just thinking like, oh, it'll be fine. They'll like it. You know, like, you know, not being as I guess as much of a stickler as I was in the past for, you know, making corrections and edits and perfections. And I let a lot of things slide, you know. And I remember being that times where I listened to records like, normally I would have redone that take, but I'm like, it'll be fine, you know. And I found myself getting into a creative rut because I just wanted to continue having the things I had, but I didn't want to really work hard to push it to another level. And so yeah, I think that was a low point for me. Just creatively, I just found myself like not putting out music that I enjoyed. And so as far as I know, there isn't a lot of music of mine that I've kept online from that era. You know, I just take it offline. I make a lot of music, so people probably don't notice. So I just, you know, just like, all right, well, I'm just taking that off. But yeah, there were times like things I look back on, I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have put that out, or oh, I shouldn't have wasted my time with that, or I should have given that more effort. And so yeah, I just found myself kind of lulled to sleep by the mystique of Mega Ran, I guess. And
was it almost like were you like, was like Raheem disassociating from Mega Ran? Were they becoming like two separate entities?
I was losing myself for sure. You know, like instead of doing things that I liked, I was doing things that I thought people would like, and I think that that's probably the worst way to create.
Yeah, that's tough, man, because I mean, it is really easy, especially for an artist that like takes their namesake from a video game character. You have the licenses from Capcom to use all the Mega Man music, you know, but like, yeah, how are you going to grow as an artist if that's all you're ever going to do?
Yeah, right? You know, you gotta continue to grow and take those things to another level, and you know, that was something I wasn't really doing, and I paid the price for it. You know, I felt like I wasn't, you know, I wasted some time. You know, most importantly, I wasted time, and that's the stuff you don't get back.
Yeah, but obviously in a much better place at this point in time.
Man, I'm in. You know, it's like you talk to like athletes, and they're like, you know, it's the athlete making the comeback, and it's like, oh, he's like, I'm in the best shape of my life. That's how I feel right now. Like musically, I feel like I'm in the best shape of my life. I am creating at such a prolific rate that it scares me. Like there's music coming out. Like I've written probably 2 completed projects in this time that I've been home, you know, since March. Two albums are done and the book, you know, and I still feel like there's more. And so now I'm at a point where I'm going to put out a new like freestyle every Friday and things like that, because I just want to make sure that I'm continuing to sharpen my skill, you know. And so yeah, it's like you gotta find a way to challenge yourself. It's like, you know, Shaq is able to dunk a ball for sure, you know, but there's gonna be a time where Shaq wants to challenge himself, which now he's DJing and doing all this other stuff, you know. So yeah, so that I think being on Twitch a lot more has motivated me, like interacting with my community on a different level. It's been fun, and not anywhere near slowing down. So now I'm thinking about the second book.
Wow, damn! And I mean, you had you know, you last year you put out 2 Hands Up, and like that album, like blew up, you know. And
I think it's some of my best stuff, man. I just
it was. I mean, like as far as like something that is of the times and talking about what's going on, I feel like it was definitely it was a poignant time. It felt like everything kind of, it was the right time for that album.
Thank you. I mean, we put it out in May, and then the world turned upside down in June. You know, like no one could have predicted that the rest of the world would react, but that was just us talking about the things that led to June, you know?
Yeah.
And not to say we could have ever predicted it, and I don't think that album even predicted it, but it just lines right, it goes right in line with the way the country was going. And sometimes it just happens like that as an artist, where you just hit that, you know, that zeitgeist, you know? And yeah, I'm just so proud of it, you know, the record. I'm doing a follow-up with Young RJ. We are halfway done that. And my only thing, I guess, is I wish we could perform those records. I wish we could be out, you know, traveling to places and seeing how people reacted to those songs live. So that makes me sad, but there'll be time for that, I'm sure. Yeah. And so yeah, we're working on new stuff, but yeah, like 2 Hands Up is, and the album, I mean, the book doesn't go that far. It stops at January of 2018. So with the Guinness World Record, the ceremony thing. But yeah, that stuff will be in the next book for sure. Like every time I've tried to write more, my editor was like, save it for the next book, save it for the next book. And I'm like, you're right, I'm gonna save it for the next book. So who knows when that'll happen, but at least I have material.
Nice. You know, you mentioned MF Doom earlier, and like that's, you know, we recently found out that we lost MF Doom at the end of October, but we didn't find out until New Year's Day.
That's like the most Doom thing ever, you know,
right?
Like Doom's whole thing has been mystique and mysteriousness. It's like, yeah, 2 months later you found out, because Doom has always done anything on his own terms, you know, so I respect that so much. And, you know, I also respect the privacy of the family to want to keep that, you know, quiet. So, yeah, Doom was a huge inspiration. There's almost a whole chapter on how Mega Ran, the character, began, and how much Doom is a part of that, you know, and I wrote that before I'd even known, you know, anything had happened. So between him and Del the Funky Homo Sapien, you know, guys that weren't afraid to maybe have a new persona and try new things, those are the guys that really inspired me in music.
Yeah, man. I mean, I definitely feel that. Like you just mentioned those are two of my favorite rappers ever right there. Like, and like, speaking of Del the Funky Homo Sapien, you got a chance to do one of my favorite Del the Funky Homo Sapien songs with him, and you lucky son of a gun. Like, what are moments like that? Are they like,
that's just unreal.
Is it like nonchalant to you at any point, or is it still just like, holy crap, what the hell am I doing here? Like, rapping with Del, you know?
That was a holy crap moment for sure. I mean, I've listened to Del since I've listened to rap music, you know? So to be able to, I just, you know, I'm just big on numbers, and I think it just made sense. Like, I'm big on dates and anniversaries and cool stuff like that. So I was like, man, it's 20 years since this song came out, and the song was so epic. It's arguably the beginning of nerdcore, you know? It's like the first time I'd heard a rap that was specifically about video games, about the love of games, not referencing it like, oh, I'm all on the web like Spider-Man, you know? No, it's like, no, I love Sega, and these video games have done a lot for my life. So it was, you know, the love was so apparent. And so I had a friend who had a friend who had a friend, and through the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, I was able to make that happen. And I'm completely flabbergasted. Me and Del text about video games probably once a day, and it's just nuts to me, you know, to be able to be like, what are you playing now? What are you playing? Oh, I like this. Oh, that game, I didn't like it, you know? And it's insane. Like, video games have opened so many doors for me. And so I'm happy to say that we didn't just do that song. We've done 2 other tracks that are going to come out at some point. And so I'm just going to keep recording with him, you know, whenever he wants to. You know, he's kind of a reclusive, you know, guy, kind of like in that Doom way. I'll text him and not hear anything for 4 days, and then the 5th day it's 22 texts in a row, like, oh my gosh, listen to this, you know. So that's kind of how it happened. I played him a beat, and he was like, I love this. And then 45 minutes later, he sent back a song to it, and I was like, wait, what? You know. So we have 3 collaborations that you'll hear at some point. And you know, just, it's an honor to be able to be mentioned with a legend like that. And to be, I think, you know, I have to blame quarantining, because everyone's home. So my advice to upcoming artists is, during this time, man, shoot your shots, man. Like, if you want to interview somebody big, chances are they're at home. So, you know, so get on Zoom with them. When I saw you guys with Ice-T, I was like, anything is possible. I'm shooting my shot. And I think it probably happened not long after that, where I was like, okay, Del, I'm going for it, you know? Like, anything's possible right now, because everyone's home. So just be creative, come with a great idea, and you can make it happen. So, you know, Shacknews can do it, you can do it too.
There you go. And you can do it for Shacknews.
Yeah, hey, you can do it for Shacknews.
Where can people go to get your book? Where can people find your music? Like, you know, all that good stuff. And what do you got coming up in the near future here? Cool.
My buddy Phil built a really cool site for me. That's dreammasterbook.com. It has all the information about the book, where you can get it. Amazon's probably the easiest place. You just hit a button and it's at your door in 2 days. I'm also doing a few signed copies, but you have to get a ticket to my reading, because if you were going to get a signed copy, you'd probably have to attend an event from a guy. So that's what happens. So now you got to attend the event. So we have an event next Wednesday where we're going to do a live reading, myself. Hopefully Xavier Woods gonna read his foreword. And then we're gonna just take turns picking out parts that maybe people have questions about or doing some live reading. And I'm gonna do a concert. So that'll be next Wednesday, I believe like 6 p.m. And it'll be super fun. And I'll be mailing out. I just literally came from the post office mailing out 45 signed books, and they hate me at the post office.
Sweet.
So dreammasterbook.com is where you can get the book.
Nice, man. Well, Mega Man, always a pleasure to talk with you. And of course, we'll probably be seeing you on season 2 of the Shacknews Stimulus games soon.
I can't wait. I'm coming for the crown. I'm about to practice some Brawlhalla tonight.
Man,
just to get ready.
Oh man, I got some. There's gonna be some new games. I'm just warning you. Don't want to give away too much, but yeah. Thank you so much for talking with us today. Everyone, please go check out Dream Master. Available now. Go get your copy. Get it autographed. Go to the digital concert. Have a good time. Live it up while you can, and hopefully draw the right kind of inspiration from this man's words. Oh my God! One last question I have to ask: what's harder, like writing bars or writing a book?
Oh, writing a book 10,000 times. I mean, because you could write a sentence or two and it could work, but with me, I'm picking it apart. I'm like, is that a fragment? You could use a better word than that. Get that thesaurus out. Are you saying good again? You know what I mean? Like, words like that. So I'm a complete word nerd. So I'm just judging it by the standard of all the books that I've read, you know, and I just feel like I want it to be top notch. So now at this point, I guess because of the time I could write a rap verse in 15 minutes, and I think it could be very, very, very good. But if I wrote for 15 minutes and just wrote paragraphs, I would think it's crap. I would ball it up, you know, and I'd like do that over again. It sucks.
All right.